Hello, this is Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing 3 faith-themed cards with you using new dies and glimmer plates from the Spellbinders Expressions of Faith collection. I absolutely adored this collection when I saw it released at Spellbinders, and so I picked a couple of my favorite products from the release to highlight today, and I'm going to be sharing some fun ways to adorn not only the die-cut cross, but also ways to create an interesting background that really highlights the cross, as well as ways to implement glimmered and stamped sentiments into the card design. We're going to start with 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panels of Neenah 110-pound weight smooth white cardstock. I've applied some pixie spray to the back of this Fun Stamper's Journey Sunny Day stencil. This is also from Spellbinders Fun Stamper's Journey. So this product is a awesome sun ray. I'm a huge fan of sun ray or sunny type of stencils because I think they can be used in so many ways. And in this instance, I really wanted to highlight the cross that's going to be on top of this panel. I chose for my first background shaded lilac, and then we're going to also use blueprint sketch, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to get that two-tone look, because obviously anywhere where this stencil is adhered to or temporarily adhered to the cardstock, we're not going to be applying ink to that area, and I'm adding my shaded lilac first. I want the rays to kind of alternate between shaded lilac and blueprint sketch. We're going to peel up the stencil and shift it over just one time. That means that all of those areas we just stenciled are going to be covered, and now we're going to be adding in blueprint sketch. Shaded lilac and blueprint sketch is one of my all-time favorite color combinations. I really, really love it. And so now I'm just kind of starting from the center of that sunny day or sunny image and working my way out. So I'm concentrating the color towards the circle and kind of just lightly blending out. I'm not even going to the edge of the cardstock in some instances, especially down here where the rays are much longer. And when I peel it away, I'm left with a two-tone design that is so pretty. Now, it doesn't look like much probably yet, but imagine when we add a cross on top of it. It is really going to help highlight that cross image, and that's what I was going for. Before we add anything on top, I'm going to go ahead and splatter some droplets. This is some Glimmer ink from Hero Arts in the color Pewter. It already was pretty liquidy, so I didn't add any water to it. I just used a small paintbrush to pick it up and splatter it all over the surface. And it's going to be wet for a little while. That's fine. I'm going to set it aside, let it air dry, because I've got lots of die cutting to do, lots of glimmering to do, things like that. So I always try to do anything like that first so it can air dry if possible, or even sit overnight. My second background, all 3 backgrounds are going to feature a different color combination. I just decided to mix it up a little bit. In fact, my crosses are all going to have a different kind of metallic or holographic color combination as well. This is Peacock Feathers and Mermaid Lagoon. It's going to be stenciled exactly the same way. So we've laid down some peacock feathers first. We're going to peel up our stencil, and that pixie spray is going to work many, many times. I didn't reapply any pixie spray to the back of this. I was able to get all 3 backgrounds done. So we've shifted it over one time. I line it up with the circle and just shift it over. And now we're adding Mermaid Lagoon. Using a heavier hand near the circle and then lightening it as we get out towards the edges. And look at that, you guys. I love this. I'm always a sucker for a really pretty aqua-ish teal background. Let's go ahead and splatter that because I already have the product out on my table. I left it there. We're going to set those aside and go ahead and clean your stencil in between each color change. And then I noticed that my stencil was getting a little less sticky, but I think it's still going to work. And we're going to grab our last color combination, and for this I decided to use Mermaid Lagoon and Chipped Sapphire. So all definitely in shades of blue and purple or lavender, but just kind of gives a different look. We're going to start with Mermaid Lagoon this time, and then we'll shift it over and add our Chipped Sapphire. I don't think I got the stencil shifted quite as far as I did for the first two cards, so there's going to be, it just has a little bit of a different look. I don't mind it, and I didn't want to waste the background, so I went ahead and left it, but I just didn't get it shifted quite the same. I think the look is still super pretty, but I think it's important to note that sometimes things maybe don't turn out perfectly, but you're going to be probably the only one that knows that. Let's clean up our work surface, get rid of any ink that's remaining. I've got my 3 backgrounds. They are completely dry now, and I'm ready to start assembling the crosses. This is the Kaleidoscope Cross from the Spellbinders Expressions of Faith collection. There are 6, you're going to need 6 pieces to assemble the cross. 2 of the large, longer piece, 2 of the smaller piece, and there's 2 separate dies for that, and then 2 pieces for the center. So there's 6 dies. You're going to need 6 pieces for each cross if you want to do the layered technique. In this cross, I used a holographic paper for the background and a metallic silver for the top layer. Really subtle, but you can definitely see the difference, especially in real life. I think you can kind of see it here too. So the kind of more matte metallic silver on top kind of helps tone down the holographic a little bit. Once I have that adhered to my card, I wanted to decorate my cross with some florals. Florals are always a good idea. Spellbinders has some of the best little teeny tiny florals out there, in my opinion. These are actually from my Mr. and Mrs. Wedding Cake wedding season collection that I have with Spellbinders. And it's just a great way to be able to utilize some of the dies from a very theme or occasion specific set for other cards. Florals work for anything, and so I wanted to show how they work here. That die set also, without the Mr. and Mrs., you could totally make that a birthday cake if you wanted to, or maybe a retirement cake or a retirement card. So there are other ways to use theme-specific dies. And these little florals, so pretty. I've got about 3 colors of lavender or blue-violet cardstock, and then the Pesto Hero Arts cardstock for the greenery. And I'm going to just kind of twine or make it look like the flowers are twining themselves around the cross. This small addition here, so we've got the beautiful stenciling with the splatter in the background, the cross on top of that, and then we're winding the flowers around the cross. Really, in my opinion, brings this to life. I love that little bit of addition. It adds some nice texture, softens it maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm always a sucker for a good teeny tiny floral. Now we're going to put some adhesive on some of those little circle die cuts on that top layer of the cross. And I'm going to be adding some pretty pink posh jewels to this. This is the pansy purple jewels that I'm adding right now. And then in the center of my flowers, I'm actually going to be adding pretty pink posh blue lagoon jewels. So not only is the cross going to have some jewel detail, but so are the flower centers. I'm using just a little dab of liquid glue applied with a fine tip applicator. And then the embellishment wand, of course, is such a great, easy way to pick up anything teeny tiny like this and pop it right where you want it to go. Those jewels make a huge difference, I think, in the finished cross. Really give it a lot of additional glitz and glimmer and that little bit of sparkle, and just dress it up so perfectly. So here are my other 2 backgrounds. We're going to quickly put these together before we add sentiments to the cards to finish them off. For our aqua background, this is going to be a combination of a holographic cardstock, a different holographic cardstock. I tried to use several different ones just to show different effects. I really love this one because I think it can pick up the gold or the silver. And so the background is the holographic, and then the top layer is a metallic gold cardstock from Lawn Fawn. Again, just a different little look. Two of the cards kind of have more of that silver, and then this one has some silver and gold. It's really personal preference. I really like the gold against the aqua tealish color of this background. I'm using some acrylic blocks to help hold the layers down as I'm adding liquid glue to the back of them so that they do not shift, and so it dries nice and straight. And then we'll go ahead and grab the components for our third cross card. This is the Mermaid Lagoon and Chipped Sapphire stenciled background. And this time I'm using two different holographic cardstocks instead of using one of the metallics. So we've kind of got that same one that you see on the right, same one for the background. It's kind of got all those little dots in the holographic design. And then the top is more of a solid holographic cardstock. You could also use colored cardstock here, white cardstock, whatever you want. I went ahead and finished assembling that off camera, and now I'm going to stamp the phrases that I picked off camera as well to stamp on each background. And I am using the Simon Says Stamp Clean Life Faith stamp set, phrases from each of those on my background. So the first one, I'm stamping He Will Not Forsake You using the Simon Says Stamp Caribbean Blue ink. And that's because I feel like that's going to tie into the overall finished design. So each background's going to feature a different color. No black ink here. I really wanted it to all go together. For the Walk in Faith card, and you can see I'm using my Spellbinders Glimmer plate as a guide to help me know where I want to stamp my phrase. And we're going to stamp from the Clean Line Faith stamp set, God is Good, using Simon Says Stamp High Dive ink. It's a really great teal ink. And I stamped each twice just to make sure it was nice and crisp and that I didn't miss any little areas. And our third background, the purplish, more purplish background or lavender background, we're going to stamp Faith Over Fear using some Simon Says Stamp Blue Violet ink. So it's going to be that darker purple ink that's going to match the darker purple of some of the florals there and all of that. And I've got all of my little stacks of florals and leaves over there on the right side that I die cut off camera to embellish those remaining two cards. Very much assembly line style. I was thinking as I was creating these cards that these would be really amazing if you created a whole set and gave them as like maybe a thank you set or just whatever it might be as a gift, even for the holidays. I think that would be really fun. This is the Spellbinders PRISM Glimmer, hot Glimmer foil. And I guess the Prism is really what that one holographic cardstock I used looks like. It's very prism-like. So I opted to use this for all three of my glimmered sentiments. Now I did swap out this lavender that you see in the center. I don't think that the Walk in His Light sentiment was as showy on that as a darker sentiment. So you will notice that I'm going to switch that out to the blue violet cardstock instead. But look how pretty these foiled glimmered sentiments look on the colored cardstock. I definitely did that on purpose. As I mentioned with the ink colors for the stamped sentiments, I really made an effort to have everything blend together. There are coordinating dies for these really beautiful Faith Glimmer sentiments. This is also part of the Expressions of Faith collection. So I die cut each of these foiled greetings using the coordinating die after I foiled it. And then I'm adhering them to my card background with foam adhesive. And so in most cases, they're going to slightly overlap the cross a little bit, but I definitely like how it all ties together. And we're just going to go ahead and finish assembling the remaining cross cards here with all of our little flowers. I'm using the foam mat from my Misty and then the stylus tip on my Tool N One to help give the flowers a little bit more of curved petals. This is one of my favorite tips when using little flowers like this, because it helps the petals curl up and it gives them a little bit more texture than a flat floral would. And tweezers are my other big tip here because they come in so handy when dealing with all of these little parts and pieces. I made really a conscious effort when choosing my cardstock colors, which are all listed and linked here below the video, to have them all tie into the colors of the background and the colors of the cardstock that I used to foil my greetings. All of those things kind of go together. I like a little touch of yellow in the instance here. I thought it really helped brighten up the card. I didn't really deviate too much on the other two cards. They're very blues on one and violets or lavenders and purples on the other. And that was just kind of, as you're going along, just choose those colors that really speak to you. And for me, this is really what went together. Now we're going to add jewels. So for this one, I am using, I think these are buttercream and then some sea glass jewels from Pretty Pink Posh. And on my last card, we're going to use amethyst. And I think I'm going to go back and use the pansy purple, which is that really, really pretty light lavender. So about 5 different colors of jewels used between my 3 cards to adorn not only the crosses, but the center of the florals as well. Just adding all of those little pieces in, trying not to miss anything. And part of the reason that I saved adding the jewels until I added the flowers are covering some of those spots on the crosses that I probably would have added jewels to. And there's no sense in adding jewels to an area that's getting covered up with something else. So I went ahead and added them later. That way I wasn't wasting any. Here is a look at my finished cards, all 3 of them. So we've got the Pretty Aqua Cross Walk in Faith. Then we have more of our blue background, and this one is going to be the God is Love. So more blues, a little bit of blue violet there, but cornflower blue. And then finally we have Walk in His Light, which is more of the purples and lavenders. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these faith-themed cards using the Spellbinders Expressions of Faith collection dies and glimmer plates. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Spellbinders product that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.